Soma Timonisha Sanekar Uta Varda Nishrebar Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajrada Uta Varda Nishrebar Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradana Uta Vardanya Shribhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakike Kodandagi Lo Pakike Sundandagi Pakyuke Tudandagi Yerme Chiktu Jingilo Pakyuke Kudan Dagilum Sundandagina Pa Yerme Chiktu Jingilo Makyuke Kudam Makyuke Sundandagina Makyuke Tudam Dagi Yermechi Jingelo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Maha Swaha. Cheda soge chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyas dagi jinso gives trola pinchira sange drupa sange chedan soge chonam Drola Penchra Sangye Drupa Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam Lam Drola Pinchira Sangye Kruparsho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity in the other perfection, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentients. So, this morning we were looking at the meaning of the 6 syllables, and basically when you understand well a seed, somehow you also understand the tree. But at the same time, to be able to understand the seed, you need to be able to imagine its full potential manifested. So when you know the tree and you look at the seed, you can understand it better even. So, in self-healing, from the moment of the generation of the 6 syllables up to the full development of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, it's actually directly connected. It's one thing being developed. And once we understand well the meaning of each Dhyani Buddha, then we can understand better the meaning of the seed. Once we understand better the meaning of the seed, we can understand better the meaning of the Dhyani Buddha. It's like understanding the cause and seeing the result. They are two different things. But it's like, because if we only look at the result, there can be the danger of us not making the connection with the cause. And if we only look at the cause, we may not understand how it can be fully developed. Okay? And that's why it's so important for us to go through the process, understanding that there is a cause, there is a process, and then there is a result. That's why first there is the cause, which is the 6 syllable. Then there is a process, which is the symbol. And then there's the result, that is the Buddha. Okay? It's not like some people asked me before, but why can't we just put the Buddha right away there? No? There's the 6 syllable, then the symbol. What's the point of all of this? Can't we just visualize the Buddha right away? One of the reasons why we need to do this process is to understand that nothing is coming like in an instant. There's a process for us to develop our qualities. And that the resultant state of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas that represent our qualities developed at their maximum potential, represents the 5 wisdoms fully developed. They can only exist because at some point there is a seed. And we have this potential right now. Like, we can, if we say that we are already enlightened, correctly we will say, no, that's a mistake. But if we say we have a seed of enlightenment, okay, that's very much possible. In other words, the qualities that we have, the body and the mind that we have all the resources to reach enlightenment. And this means the seed for enlightenment. We have all the qualities for that. So in the practice, what we will do is that we will develop our 5 wisdoms and the 5 aggregates, because the 5 Dhyani Buddhas represent both the 5 wisdoms at their maximum potential, but also represents the 5 aggregates in a pure state. The 5 aggregates is Vajrayana, aggregate of form, Amitabha, aggregate of discrimination, Kshobhya, aggregate of consciousness, Ratnasambhava, aggregate of feeling, and Amoghasiddhi, aggregate of composition of factors. Composition of factors is our personality, the different aspects of our mind. Being precise, are the at least 49 mental factors left once you take out feeling and discrimination. Okay? So basically, what happens is that we are composed by the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates in essence is our body and our mind. Okay? So if we put together the 5 aggregates, it's body and mind. So we have Vairochana, aggregate of form, which is the body in the gross, subtle, and very subtle level. And then we have the aggregate, the other 4 aggregates, which composes the mind, in which we have discrimination, consciousness, sensation, and composition of factors. Okay? Actually, consciousness is the continuum of our mind, it's the mind itself. Then sensation and discrimination are 2 aspects of the mind, 2 mental factors. And composition of factors are all the other mental factors, actually. So within composition of factors, which are the aspects, the factors that composes the mind, the aspects of the mind. Actually, inside composition of factors, there is sensation, and there is feeling, sensation, and there is discrimination also. So the question is, why do we need to separate it and have 5 aggregates? Wouldn't it be enough to have 3? Or even 2? If we would make 2, would make the aggregate of body, the aggregate of mind. Then the aggregate of mind, we could make it in 2 parts, which we call like the main mind, like the aggregate of consciousness, and the aggregate of composition of factors. Wouldn't it be enough? In a way, yes. Because both feeling and discrimination are compositional factors. Then the question is, then why did Buddha made it 5? The reason described, there are some texts that give a very simple reason, but it's not this the case. Some texts, when you have a certain number, like the 12 links of independence, why are they 12? Because you cannot make with 11 and you don't need 13. That's why you make 12. Okay? This is not the case of the 5 aggregates. This is not the answer given. Because logically it works, but it doesn't answer much, no? But basically, when we talk about the 5 aggregates, the reason why they are 5 and not 3 is because most of the suffering and the conflicts that we have in the world are created by the grasping, the attachment towards feeling and towards discrimination. This is the main reason. Like how much we are attached to our feeling of pleasure. How much do we do to avoid the feeling of suffering? If we look to the world, how many conflicts, how much violence, how much energy is put in the world only for the feeling of pleasure and for the feeling of avoiding the feeling of suffering? Almost everything. It's not everything, but almost everything that people do is based on that. When a person gets intellectually a little bit more developed, and when the pleasures are somehow sustained, then the person starts fighting, and conflicts arise because of discrimination, because the I think, because of my point of view. And we can see this very clearly, no? In countries and in conditions where human beings are more poor, so material things lack. So people fight mostly for what? For the feeling of pleasure or to avoid the feeling of suffering. When you go to places like here in Holland or other places where the material situation is quite stable, which means people have everything they need, they want, people don't fight anymore so much for the part of pleasure, even though we still see a lot of energy put on the part of the sensation. We can see this with food, we can see this with drugs, we can see this with sex, we can see this with power, It's all related to the sensation of pleasure, the feeling of pleasure, and avoiding the feeling of suffering. It's all attached, it's all based on the attachment to that. Then for those that are able to go beyond the attachment to the feeling, most often they have attachment to the discrimination, what I think. So, based on that, there is a lot of conflict that is generated on the different points of view, and here we get religion, we get politics, we get many things that mix together. And don't even need to be put religion and politics, like even if we look inside medicine, there are those that think in one way, those that think in another way. I think my way is right, I think your way is wrong. And like this we can go on and on and on for centuries, fighting and conflict and so on. Okay. So most of the conflicts that arise are created by the attachment towards feeling and towards discrimination. And we recognize ourselves within that. So, in order to show this clearly to us, when Buddha described the self, he said that the self is based on 5 aggregates, which is the body, consciousness, feeling, discrimination, and composition of factors, which are the other smaller aspects of our mind. There is intention, there is effort, there is laziness, there are so many other efforts. Contact, there are mental attention, mindfulness, all of these are part of the composition of factors. Okay? So, in most of the meditations from the sutra, starting from the sutra, one of the important parts is the meditating on the 5 aggregates. It's like in the Heart Sutra we find very much talking about the 5 aggregates. And understanding how the 5 aggregates lack inherent existence, and so on and so on. Anyhow, the point is that understanding that we are composed by the 5 aggregates. Also because normally when we think about ourselves, our tendency to say, my body, my mind. But that's not really correct. We do not own a body and we do not own a mind. Because if we would own a body and own a mind, we would be able to exist independently of the body and the mind, which is not possible. So let's say we do not own a body and we do not own a mind. We are composed by body and mind. Okay? But anyhow, this is the point, is that understanding the 5 aggregates is very important. And what is the basis that we have right now of the self? The 5 aggregates. Body and mind. That's what we are. That's the main resource that we have. So once again, the 6 syllables, they represent the 5 wisdoms of the basis and the 5 aggregates of the basis also. So Vajrayana represents the aggregate of form, the body that we have right now, that can become an enlightened body, a pure body. We have Amitabha, that is the aggregate of discrimination. Then we have Akshobhya, the aggregate of consciousness. Ratnasambhava, the aggregate of feeling. And Amoghasiddhi, the aggregate of composition of factors. Okay. So, once again, when we talk about the seed, it's showing our own potential, our potential to reach enlightenment. So what is a Buddha? A Buddha is a being that have a pure aggregate of body, pure aggregate of discrimination, consciousness, feeling, and composition of factors. It's not that there is an extra aggregate, which means the enlightened aggregate that a Buddha has. It's just the same aggregates as we do have. The difference is that Buddha used the aggregates in a more wise way. Basically, it's the same conditions, the same material. This makes me somehow just make one image came to my mind, showing the difference. Like in Brazil, we have, especially in São Paulo, a lot of Japanese immigrants. The biggest Japanese community in the world, sure, outside of Japan, is in São Paulo. And what happened was that when the Japanese arrived in Brazil, they start cultivating land. And one time I was in a restaurant in Milan, Japanese restaurant, and when I was going to pay, the lady was a typical Japanese old lady. She asked me, where you come from? I said, I come from Brazil. Ah, Brazil? Is there poor people in Brazil? Is there poverty in Brazil? I said, oh yes, a lot. And she could not understand. But how possible? You have land. How can people be poor? Okay? In Japan, there is no much land. So people really learn how to take good care of the land and how to cultivate it, yes, how to use the most potential of the land. That's why what happened was when the Japanese arrived in Brazil, in 50 square meters, they can plant what a Brazilian would take in 500 square meters. No? They can really make it out, and they would get a very small piece of land, and they will make a fortune out of this. And there was the neighbor that had a big piece of land, and there he was with hunger, no food, and this and that because it's lazy. You know, like you go to the north of Brazil, some areas, very poor areas, and one friend of ours from the Sangha, she had an heritage of a big land in the north of Brazil, some area. So she went to see the land that she had received an heritage, which for many years no one really taken care. So she went to look at the people living at the land. And she talked to them, and she saw that there was nothing being planted on the land, and people were very poor. And she asked, is it not beans are not growing in this land? He said, no, ma'am, no beans are growing here. And no potatoes are growing here? No, ma'am, no potatoes grow here. And what about, she was making different questions of what vegetables and things and cereals, if they were not growing in that land. And the answer was, no, ma'am, nothing of this is growing here. Then she said, that's way too strange. Then she made a different question, and she said, sorry, if you prepare the land, and then you plant, and then you put water, oh yes, ma'am, then everything is growing. Okay. So it's similar to that, you know. We ourselves, we are not enlightened, but it's like the field through which a Buddha builds up his enlightenment is the same one as ourselves where we build up our suffering. The basis is the same. It depends how much we use it and how we use it. No? We can stay looking into that same field and complaining nothing grows there. Because I never plant anything, we never prepare the land, we never take care of it. There's even like one other area of Brazil, I remember now, where people nowadays are quite rich, but they were originally, I think they were Dutch immigrants. And when they arrived there, they got an area with the land was really quite bad. Then what they did, they took land, they sent to Europe, to Holland, to make an exam of the land, to what were the right things that they needed to plant there. They brought back, they start planting, they start preparing the land in order to change the characteristics of the land, and so on, and they became a very rich area. The neighbors had the best land, and they didn't do anything, and finally they remained poor after generations and generations. The most important thing is not what we have, but how do we use it? What do we do with it? And if we take all human beings around, we have the same basis, some difference there. But if we look, the human beings that were able to do the most out of their life, most of the times was not because they were born with wonderful conditions. Was because they had the right effort and they used in the best way what they had. Very often the people that did great things were not necessarily the most intelligent ones, but were the people that put the greatest effort. So what I want to say is that we have all the same, no? The body that we have and the body that Milarepa had was not so different. We still have much better conditions. Our sensations, the feelings that we have from the body, from the mind, the discrimination is very similar, you know, the way the mind functions and everything else. It depends how we use it. So if we look at all the great masters, of all the masters of enlightenment that could really reach enlightenment, their body was not that different from our body. Their mind also, at the beginning of their path, was not so different from our mind. They had pleasures, suffering, attraction, aversion. Look at Milarepa. He had so much aversion towards his uncle and other people from the village that stole the money from his heritage and treated him and his mother as slaves, that he went for vengeance, and he killed so many people through black magic. If we look to that, maybe most of us, we think our mind is a little bit better. We don't have so much things, vengeance and this type of bad feelings, no? So it's not that Milarepa already started who knows where, no? But then, because of putting a lot of effort in the right direction, not small effort, putting a lot of effort in the right direction, he was able to eliminate his defilements, to develop his qualities to the maximum potential. And it was in the end of the life of Milarepa when he was saying goodbye to one of his main disciples, Rechumpa, that they were like on the road, and Rechumpa was about to leave for a long trip. And they knew that most probably they would never meet each other again in that same life. So Milarepa said to Rechumpa when he left for his path and his travel, he said, "My dear son, go safe on your journey because you have everything that you need." And he was referring to the spiritual journey. Then Rechumpa thanked him and started walking. And after some meters, Milarepa called him back and said, "Oh, my son, come back. I forgot to give you the most important of all teachings." I would have said, "Thank you, remembered now at least." No, otherwise it would be too late. But anyhow, he came back. He arrived there, went to his master. "Please, master, tell me." Milarepa turned his back to him, raised his skirt, and showed his bump to him. And he said that his bump was very ugly, like the bump of a monkey. Very rough, because of so many years sitting in the cold stone meditating. Because he had no money even to have a cushion. So he turned back again, looked at Rechumpa and said, "Remember, without effort there is no result." Our body and the body of Milarepa, our mind and the mind of Milarepa, is not that much different from the beginning. And not after he reached enlightenment, I mean in the beginning of his path. But he had the right instructions, and we have right instructions. And he applied them with all his strength, day and night. That's the main point. But the point that I want to bring is that when we talk about the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, we are showing the result. The syllables is the cause. And they represent the cause, and the result represents the 5 wisdoms and the 5 aggregates. The 5 wisdoms is showing specifically the mind of enlightenment and the mind that we have now. Okay? While the 5 aggregates is showing the basis of our identity. And it is quite interesting also, we could even try to imagine one process of the right word is not therapy, but something like that. Techniques to develop the 5 wisdoms. No? Learn how to make better choices. When we are in a conflict, see the similarities. Learn how to see the individual characteristics. Open the mind for everything that is around. And clear oneself, understand oneself that we exist independently of the negative emotions we have. Oh, it's quite useful actually. No? But this is one part of the 5 wisdoms. The 5 aggregates are the basis of our identity. When we describe what is the self, in Tibetan we call Pungbo Ngabo Kangru Latakpe Ngatam. It's a mere I, identity of I, imputed on one or on the 5 aggregates. On the definition, there is just one kangrung, one word in Tibetan, which means on any of the five, because when we do debate, we need to take out all the other possibilities which don't fit, and the only one is in the realm of no form. There is no aggregate of form, because there is no form. But okay, if we talk about here where we are, the definition of self is basically the simple imputation of I based on the five aggregates. So the basis of imputation is the five aggregates, and then on the five aggregates we generate a mind which says I am, which means our own identity exists on the basis of the five aggregates. So we have the five aggregates now. And then when we look to the Buddha, what is the Buddha? Is the five aggregates in a pure state. So the day that I reach enlightenment, I'm not going to be something different from what I am today. In the sense, it's not like something, hopefully something very different, but not in the sense like completely another existence. Like when I was a child and now, am I the same or am I different? It's the same continuum, right? I can say when I was a child, I jumped from a tree. Can I jump from the tree now? Maybe yes, maybe no. Okay? But the point is that, or when we go to our mother and we say, when I was a child, you were carrying me in your arms. Can we do that now? So can we say, are we the same? So are we that child? No. But we are the same continuum, right? Okay? Similar to that, one day when we all reach enlightenment, hopefully soon, it will be the same continuum of ourselves. It's not something totally separated from what we were. So that's why we say that all Buddhas, they are of the same nature, in the sense that there is not one Buddha with more compassion than the other, or with less defilements than the other. They're all in the same nature in this sense. But each of one of them keep their own identity and their own individuality. Each one of them can go and track back to the moment in which they were not Buddhas. Like the day we all reach enlightenment, we can all go back and say, you remember that day when we were ignorant beings? And you said this and I said that. It should be possible. This is just to say that when we talk about a Buddha, it is very much connected with what we are now. There is not one quality in a Buddha. In all the descriptions of the qualities of the Buddha, there is not one quality of a Buddha that is not connected to an aspect of the present moment in which we are not enlightened. The Buddha is nothing more, nothing less than ourselves in a fully developed state, free of all defilement. That's it. So that's why when we look at self-healing, we have the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. No? What the 5 Dhyani Buddhas represent? Our 5 wisdoms, fully developed, and the 5 aggregates, fully developed. That's it. So it's a mirror of our own qualities developed. It's showing to us, we can develop our qualities. We have this potential within us. And because in order to show this, we have the seed, the symbol, and the Buddha, in which we are showing the seed is showing that we have the cause within us. The symbol is showing that this seed can develop and grow, and the Buddha is showing the actual result, that we can how it is if we develop these qualities to their maximum potential, and that we can do that. Okay. With this, I think it's a little bit more clear the idea of the seed syllable, the symbol, and then the Buddha. Okay? Because the visualization itself is quite simple. We just visualize the seed syllable, the start of light, and then it emanates light and nectar through all the Buddhas, all the sentient beings, come back, reabsorb, and then it transforms into the symbol. Okay? Through the condition of blessings of all Buddhas, and by the love and compassion towards all sentient beings, the lights go and come back reabsorbed, and through that condition, the syllable transforms into the symbol. Okay? Which shows our qualities, not yet at their full potential, but more. Like when we see a seed, in both cases of a child or a plant. When a child is being born, there's the moment of conception. In the moment of conception, what is there? The union of the ovum and the sperm. Something extremely tiny and small. Then there is a moment as it develops, there's a moment that is not yet a fully developed body, but we can already say it's a boy, it's a girl. We can already start seeing the head and the arms. We can already see the shape. Okay? This is the symbol. The symbol is not yet a fully developed form, but you can already start to see better the qualities of what is going to be. Like a plant, when the seed starts to ripen, you can see the leaves. The tree is not yet there. It's not yet giving its fruits, but you can see what type of tree it will become. You can start to have an idea of what it will be. Okay? Similar to that, here in this case, the seed syllable, which is ours, starts to develop and transforms into the symbols. The symbols are, again, metaphors, showing our own qualities more developed. It represents the 5 wisdoms, the 5 pure aggregates, and the qualities connected to each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So, Vajrayana represents wisdom. Amitabha, satisfaction and concentration. Actually, it's not possible to have concentration without satisfaction. Okay? If we don't have good concentration, try to be more satisfied first, and then you will be able to have better concentration. Because the lack of concentration is directly connected with the mind wandering around to objects of desire. So in the moment we are satisfied, it's okay, then the mind rests. Then we can concentrate. Okay? That's why satisfaction and concentration are directly connected in this process. Then we have at our heart, Akshobhya, the qualities of love, compassion, stability, most of all, inner stability. Then there is patience, inner calm, and spontaneous joy. Then, as we go to the navel chakra, Ratnasambhava, we have humility, generosity. And in the secret chakra, we have the power of realization. It's the ability to do things, strength to do, like courage to do things, and rejoicing, to be happy for the happiness of others. We're happy for the virtuous actions and the happiness of others. So these are the qualities that are represented also within our 5 chakras. So what is important is that we need to get familiarized with the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, in the sense that when we see a blue color, what comes to mind? Dharma, Dhatu, wisdom. The mind in its own true nature. With defilements or without defilements. Blue color, what comes to our mind? Consciousness. Love, compassion, patience, stability. Yellow color, feeling, equanimity, wisdom of equanimity, generosity, humility. We need to connect with all of this. So when we have even one sit syllable, we just have one om. This om, it's like one sit, so it has so much meaning within it. It means the mirror-like wisdom, no potential to develop it, is the aggregate of form. Remember always that body is always together with mind. The body is also very important. So it has the aggregate of the body, of form. It represents wisdom, correct view of reality, infinite inner space. All of this is in the little white dot represented there. Do we have all these qualities yet? No, but it represents that we can develop them. Okay? So one of the things that is good for us to train in order to be able to do self-healing in a more and more deep and better way is all the aspects and characteristics of each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. We need to be able to know them by heart. no? And understand them better. What do we mean by one or another? So when we say south, generosity, west, concentration, Amitabha. And then we make the correlation between the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, and then we have the five directions, including the center, no? According to the mandala of Borobudur. We have Akshobhya in the east, Ratnasambhava in the south, Amitabha in the west, Amoghasiddhi in the north, Vairochana in the center. Then we have another aspect of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas also, which is very important, not so much spoken normally, which are called the 5 types of action. Okay? Which is the action of pacification that is connected to Vairochana. Buddha Vairochana has the strength to pacify conflict. Then there is Ratna Sambhava that has the quality of increment, of increasing. Then there is Amitabha, that is the power of influence, or normally it's called power, to have power, to have influence. It's also called magnetizing power, sometimes it's translated. It's the ability to influence one's mind and others in a positive way or negative. Like the ability to magnetize the energy and to influence others. Or influence oneself also. Then we have Amoghasiddhi, which is related to the wrathful power. The wrathful action is to use the strength of destruction to destroy what is negative. Okay? So we have the action of pacification, the action of increasing, the action of power, and the action of the wrathful action. Okay? These 4 actions, they are in the order which is more difficult to realize also. The easiest one is pacification. Then comes increasing, then comes power, and then comes the wrathful action. The 5th action is the one connected to Buddha Kshobhya in the heart, which is the union of the 4. It's all the 4 actions together. Okay? So, when we look to Ratna Sambhava, what it means? Increasing. Generosity, equanimity, wisdom of equanimity, pure aggregate of feeling, south direction, navel chakra. Then all the sicknesses related to the navel chakra also. Then we start connecting to all of this. So when we see make a sit syllable, it becomes so meaningful. When we see one symbol, it becomes so meaningful. Like I was not long ago in Nepal. Then I was going around looking at the stupas. Everywhere in Nepal, there are many small stupas, and everywhere you see the symbols of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. So when we see one Vajra, what it represents? Love, compassion, stability, patience, pure consciousness, they aggregate the wisdom of Dharmadhatu wisdom, all the 5 actions united in one. It represents the mind. Vairochana represents the body, Amitabha the speech, Akshobhya the mind, Ratna Sambhava the qualities, and Amoghasiddhi the action. We have also these relations in which we have body, speech, mind, qualities, and action. So then, like so many things together into one symbol, no? Like, if we just take one symbol like this Vajra, so much meaning. In one way, it represents the mind. Its own name, Vajra, which is actually, literally, if we translate, is diamond. Okay? The diamond, the stone, it is actually the hardest of all stones, right? And it has many qualities. And it represents that something that is not divisible, indivisible, non-dual. So Vajra represents the union, the indivisible union of method and wisdom, of great bliss and emptiness, of love and wisdom. This is what Vajra represents. So it's representing the deepest states of the enlightened mind. No? That's why also you have here 5 parts here, 5 here, which means the male energy, female energy, method and wisdom that unites in the center. So, like if we go to the symbology, it represents so much. And similar to this, we have all the different symbols. No? So we need actually somehow to look at the symbols and start connecting the meanings to it. So one of the ways of doing that is learning what are the qualities of every Yani Buddha. So let's just name them again. Let's start with Vajrayana at the crown. So we have mirror-like wisdom, aggregate of form, from the 5 directions is at the center, white in color. Okay? Then it represents eliminating ignorance, developing wisdom, developing infinite inner space, the power of pacification. Okay? Then we go to Amitabha at the throat chakra. We have Amitabha at the throat chakra. It's what is all the aspects connected to it. Amitabha is the wisdom of discrimination, or the wisdom that realizes each thing, that perceives each thing. The wisdom of discrimination, the pure aggregate of discrimination. Then we have satisfaction, concentration. For that is the elimination of unlimited attachment, unlimited desire, insatisfaction, lack of concentration. It represents speech. I forgot to say Vajrayana represents body. Amitabha represents the speech. It has the action of power. And the west direction, red in color. Then we go to Buddha Akshobhya. Akshobhya we have the aggregate of consciousness, the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu wisdom, the pure nature of the mind, Dharmadhatu wisdom. Then we have the negative aspects, which is hatred, aversion, anger, inner instability, then there is anxiety, there is the connected also like depression and sadness and so on. And then we have connected, it represents love, compassion, stability, the enlightened mind. It represents also the mind of spontaneous joy. And then it represents the power of that, the action that unites all the 4 actions. It's in the east direction, so it's like the entrance. And as we said before, it represents also the enlightened mind. Okay? And then we go to Ratnasambhava. Ratnasambhava is the aggregate of feeling, the wisdom of equanimity. It eliminates, is connected with the purification, elimination of the arrogance and miserliness, the development of qualities such as generosity and humility. And then it has the power, the action of increasing the south direction, yellow in color. Okay. Then we go to Buddha Amoghasiddhi. Amoghasiddhi is connected with the wisdom of all-realizing wisdom, the aggregate of composition of factors, the elimination of fear, jealousy, and envy, the development of the certainty in action, courage, and the rejoicing, to be happy for the happiness and positive actions of others. It is in the north direction, green color, and it represents also the wrathful action. Okay? So this is, for example, some of the aspects of the 5 Yani Buddhas. So the more we go deep into this, the more we can create the connections. Then what are the symbols? We have the colors, which have, oh, and then I forgot to say, Vajrayana is body, Amitabha is speech, Akshobhya is mind, Radnasambhava is qualities, and Amoghasiddhi is action. Then we have the symbols. The symbol of Vajrayana is a Dharma wheel, a white Dharma wheel. The symbol of Amitabha, a red lotus. The symbol of Akshobhya, a blue Vajra. The symbol of Radnasambhava, a yellow jewel. And the symbol of Amoghasiddhi, a green double Vajra, or a sword. Sometimes it's represented as a sword, sometimes it's represented as a green double Vajra. Okay? Then we have connection with animals also. The crown is connected with the pig. Amoghasiddhi is connected with the pig. This is the animals in relation to the defilement. Basically, the animals here are like symbols representing the defilements that we need to eliminate. So at the crown chakra, Vajrayana is represented by the pig, because the pig eats anything. No? The pig doesn't have so much discernment on what to eat and what not to eat, right? I never had pigs. But the idea is that normally we say the pig eats everything. So through our ignorance, we do not have discernment in what we eat as true and not true. With our mind, we just take everything as true as long as they appear in front of us. Okay? So the pig is representing ignorance. The chicken or the hen at our throat is representing attachment. Why? Because if we look at a chicken, what is the chicken doing the whole day? He's always eating, and never enough, no? He's always looking for something more. He's always eating. And also, somehow chicken is said to be a very stupid animal. Like, it's said to be that chickens, like, okay, you turn off the light, they think it's already night. You turn on the light again, they think it's the next day. And you make one line in the floor, and you put the head of the chicken like this, looking at the line. Then you go away, you come back after a few hours, the chicken is still looking at the lines. Like, these are stupid games that children play with chicken in Brazil. I don't know if in Holland do the same. But anyhow, chickens are supposed to be a bit stupid. And when we are taken by our attachment, we become very stupid also. Okay? So, there are some connections with the animals in this way. Then in the heart is Akshobhya, hatred, represented by the snake. Okay? The snake is said to be two reasons. One is the reason the snake is connected with the poison. Poison is something that is very fast, small, but very powerful and very deadly, that can harm a lot. One moment of strong anger can destroy eons of good merits and positive karma. So it's very poisonous. And it's also a type of mind that when enters is difficult to take out. So it's a very dangerous. And also the way how the snake sneaks in and we don't see the snake so much coming, the anger can come in without really seeing so clear, and when you see it, just there coming. No, it's like that. When you see the snake, is already biting. When you see the anger, is already manifesting. And there is a saying that when someone kills a snake, and the snake sees the person that is killing it, the snake remains with the memory of that face for another 9 lives, with anger towards that person that killed. This is one saying. I don't know. I have no precise information about how it is or it's not. The fact is that there is a strong connection with this aspect of anger that is manifested from the snake. Okay? Then we go to the navel, where is Buddha Ratnasambhava. The main defilement is the sense of pride and arrogance. And here comes the horse. Horses are wonderful animals. Every animal is wonderful, actually. But in this, we are just in one aspect of each animal that is representing, is a symbol, is a metaphor, that is representing one defilement. So, when I was small, I used to ride quite a lot. And when there are competitions, like of jumping competitions, no? And a horse makes a mistake, what's the way to punish the horse? Bring the head down in front of everyone. And that's the worst thing for the horse. In front of the great public, he needs to put the head down in front of everyone. That's something quite hard. So generally speaking, horses are said to be quite arrogant and proud animals. It's one of the characteristics of the horse. Okay? So in this way, we are using this characteristic representing our mind of feeling superior and this proud, arrogant mind. Then we have the Garuda at the secret chakra of Amoghasiddhi that represents our fear and envy. Basically, what happened is that the Garuda is said to be the king of birds. So he's the most powerful one. He's the king of all birds. But because he has all the power, he's always afraid if anybody else gets anything, because he may lose his position. So at the same time that he has power, he's always afraid of losing the power. So if he sees anyone with any quality, he doesn't want that person to have that other one to have the quality, because he may lose his own position. So there is a lot of envy, there is a lot of jealousy. Jealousy is connected with fear, of losing to fearing to lose what we have. So it's like if the Garuda is the king of the birds, and then one bird come and give respect to another bird and not him, then he starts already to be jealous, because actually he's afraid of losing his position. No? So this is why it's represented the Garuda. The Garuda has many qualities which are represented in another context. In this context, the animals are representing the defilement. Okay? Just important to say that, because some people may think that when we do self-healing and we eliminate the animals, we have something against the animals. Okay? One time happened in Brazil. There was some people of the Sangha, and nearby their town there was a very old tree, and the tree was sick. So what they started doing is like they just said, okay, let's try. They go there. They went there, and they were doing the practice of the environment of the 5 mothers around the tree, near the tree. And actually what happened is that in time even the tree was better. So they were very happy, and then because of the good results, one organization for taking care of the environment came to see that, because they say, wow, the tree is better, let's see what happened, and so what are you doing? And then they did one day the practice together, and then after that this organization prohibited them to come back to do the practice again, because they say that we did not respect nature because we don't like animals, because we throw them out. Then you try to explain, then it may be too late. When people have a fixed idea, it's difficult to change their mind, no? They try to explain and so on. But just because these doubts can come to the mind of someone, I prefer to explain clearly. The animals in this case, they are just one symbol representing the defilement. It's one characteristic of the animals to help us to connect with what defilements we need to eliminate. Okay? So it is important for us to connect with all the colors and the direction, and we can always make the connections. I go east, phobia. White color, blue color, red color, what's the meaning? Different parts of the body, to connect with all the aspects of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And as we see, there is not one aspect of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas that is not that we don't have. Tell me one person that don't have wisdom at some level at least. That don't have compassion, love, satisfaction, concentration, that don't have generosity or humility or rejoicing or able to realize things. We all have it at a different level. So the defilements, we also have it. The 4 actions and the 5 actions we also have. We have the action of pacification, we do the action of increasing, of wrathful action, we do all of this. So all the aspects of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas we do have the aspect in our life. It's a matter of developing it and eliminating some aspects and developing the others. This is what it symbolizes, okay? But the conclusion of this part is, please try to connect to the, how to say, connect well to the qualities of every Dhyani Buddha. Because when we know that, then we understand the meaning better of the symbols and the sit syllables and the symbols. Like now we say, okay, a white Dharma wheel. But what is actually representing that white Dharma wheel? It's representing the development of wisdom, of the mirror-like wisdom, of the aggregate of form, representing the development of inner space, so many things, the body. Then we say, okay, then we have the red lotus, representing developing satisfaction and concentration and discrimination and so on. So when we make this connection, it's very important. So the more we experience the meaning of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, the more this is deep and strong for us, the more meaningful it will be, every symbol and every color and everything that is representing it. Okay? It's slightly different. The wisdom of discrimination and the aggregate of discrimination is a bit different, from my perspective. Huh? It's like this. They are connected. They are aspects which are very similar. Both of them are based on recognizing the specific characteristics. So, I can only say this is juice in the moment that I can recognize the specific characteristics, the general and specific characteristics of this object in relation to this. Okay? It's like some people, they don't have the ability to recognize some specific characteristics. You give two different things to them and they think it's the same. Okay? Then the person that is more able into discerning that and into perceiving the specific characteristics, they can say the difference. No? Like someone that have trained their ears, they listen to two sounds and they can say the difference. Someone that have not trained their ears, they cannot say the difference. Someone that is trained in drinking wine can say the difference between one wine and the other. Someone that is not trained, you give the two wines, they just say it's nice wine and nothing more. Okay? So basically what happens is that the aggregate of discernment, of discrimination, it is where we divide based on this, on perceiving the specific and general characteristics of each and every object. It's labeling and giving the name. Okay? That's the part of our mind that says, this is a glass, this is juice, that is water, this is a bell, that is the sound of the bell, this is the sound of knocking on the table, and whatever. Okay? This is what we call the aggregate of discrimination. The wisdom of discrimination, the way it is described, is the specific capacity to discern one thing from the other, of the specific capacity to perceive the characteristics of something. That is not the part of labeling. Okay? Even though it's quite difficult to distinguish one from the other. Okay? When we take about the wisdom of discernment and the actual aggregate, my sensation is that the main difference is that the wisdom is basically the capacity to recognize the differences. And the aggregate, it is connected also with the aspect of naming and labeling things. The names in Tibetan are different. One is called Dushe, Dushe Gipungbo, Dushe, Duter Shebarchawa in Tibetan, it's a long way. Du means together. She means to know. Is to know by gathering. The meaning of discrimination in Tibetan is dushe, duter sheba. Du means to gather, she means to know. So you gather the specific and the general characteristics, and by that you know the object. Okay? This is the discrimination. The wisdom is called Sosor Tokpa. Different names. Dushe and Sosor Tokpa. Sosor Tokpa Yeshe is the discriminating awareness, because Yeshe, one of the names is discriminating awareness, is the wisdom, let's say. Tokpa means to realize, to perceive, to understand. Sosor means each one. So it's the mind that can say, this is this, that is able to divide things and see the differences between. So the wisdom of discrimination is the ability to see the difference between things, while the aggregate of discrimination is the mind that by gathering the characteristics labels the phenomena, saying this is a table, this is a chair, this is a flower, and then so on and so on. Okay? So this is more or less the difference of the meaning. Okay. Now, one more thing that was a request, that once we do this, then after the explanation, then we will go through symbols and Buddhas. It becomes more fast because we are explaining the whole thing together. When you understand well the syllable, then you understood, then we already understood the symbol and we already understood the Buddhas. If we understand well the Buddha, then we also understand the symbols and the syllables and so on, because it's all three moments of the same: the basis, the cause, the path, the development, and the actual result. Okay? So, just one thing, just a more clear explanation of the defilement related to every Dhyani Buddha. And we have on the crown chakra, there is ignorance. The definition of ignorance is not knowing, not seeing. Our inability to see. In Sanskrit, the word for ignorance is avidya. A means no, negation. Vid means to see. Avidya, not to see. But it doesn't refer only to intellectual process of not knowing things conceptually. It's mostly related to not knowing things in a more spontaneous way. For example, normally there are two main types of ignorance. Then when we talk about ignorance related to Vajrayana, there are two main ignorance. The ignorance of not seeing the law of cause and effect, and the ignorance of not seeing the true nature of reality. These are the two forms of ignorance that are the main causes for our suffering. Okay? The first is that when we do an action, are we aware of what is going to be the result? No. When we experience the result, do we know which was the cause? No. So we are ignorant about it. Second, when we see phenomenon, it appears to us, everything that we see appears to us as if it was of inherent existence, solid, objective, existing by its own characteristics. But actually it is not like that. Okay? So we don't see the interdependence. We don't see the lack of inherent existence in things. So this is the other form of ignorance. Okay? The wisdom that grasps at inherent existence. Generally speaking, there are two different types of ignorance, which are called the ignorance of not seeing and the ignorance of wrong seeing, of seeing wrong. Okay? The ignorance of not seeing is actually a little bit better, because it's when simply we don't know something. The ignorance of wrong seeing, of seeing wrong, is when we are sure about something but in the wrong way. The ignorance that is the main cause, the root of suffering, is the ignorance of wrong seeing. Because we see reality as if it was of inherent existence when actually it's not. The cause of suffering is not seeing interdependence. is because of the grasping at inherent existence. So this is ignorance. Okay? Then we have the ignorance of wrong seeing, that we grasp at the permanence of phenomena. There are many types of ignorance. Okay? So, but basically we could divide into these two. Okay? There are many ways of describing ignorance and many types of ignorance also, but the basis is. Then on the throat chakra, mainly, what we have is attachment, unlimited desire. When we call it unlimited, it's not referred to the fact of never ending. From my perspective, it refers to the fact that it means projecting our happiness and grasping, holding strong into things that cannot sustain happiness. So it doesn't matter how much I have, it's never enough. That's why it's unlimited. Okay? So, basically, is everything that we desire is when we wish for something that we don't have. Attachment is when we grab strongly and we don't want to be separated from something that we already have. Desire and attachment by its own nature are not negative. Okay? The very important mind of bodhicitta is a form of desire. It's the wish to reach enlightenment. There is the wish, I want to reach enlightenment. Normally we don't call it desire, we call it aspiration. But in our language, somehow it's a form of desire. It's like wishing for something. I want something. I want to reach enlightenment. I want to help others. This is all positive. Okay? The definition of desire in the form of a mental defilement is that, first of all, it's a mental defilement. What is the definition of mental defilement? A mental defilement is any state of mind that, when manifested, brings the mind to a state of unpeacefulness. Things quite clear, no? It's any state of mind that, when manifested, brings the mind to a state of unpeacefulness. Actually, the description say, Raptu Mashivarcheba, that brings to a state of strong unpeacefulness. Very unpeaceful state of mind. That's a mental defilement. Okay? So, attachment and desire. Desire is to wish for what we don't have. Attachment means to grab at what we already have and not wanting to let it go. So, if we have a correct view of reality, be attached to it as much as you can. Okay? If you have generosity and humility and wisdom, don't let it go. Grab it. That's okay. If you wish for enlightenment, if you wish for the benefit of others, desire it as much as you can. Okay? So when we talk, that's why we call it unlimited attachment or unlimited desire. It means that it doesn't matter how much I have it, it will never going to be enough. It cannot sustain the state of happiness. It doesn't matter how much I look for it and how much I gain it, it can never maintain the state of happiness and satisfaction. It's never enough. That's why it's unlimited. Okay? So basically, the unlimited attachment, unlimited desire, is when we desire, we want something that we don't have, and by that desire, it brings the mind to a state of unpeacefulness. And the function that it has is also so to make us do unwholesome actions. Out of desire for something that cannot sustain our happiness, we are able to kill, we are able to lie, we are able to harm others, we are able to do the most crazy things. Okay? And most of all, when we have strong desire for something, until the moment we don't get it, the mind is unpeaceful. But when we have a positive aspiration, that let's call a positive desire, this doesn't happen. Okay? Then, attachment is similar, but instead of towards what I want is towards what I have, and I don't want to let it go. Okay? So this basically is the mind of desire and attachment. Okay? It's important to make this distinction because sometimes many times people ask me, oh, but in Buddhism you say that desire is negative. How do you live without desire? You don't want anything. There are many positive desires. The wish to help others. Love itself is a form of desire, if you put it in this way. It's the wish for others to be happy. Compassion is the wish for others to be free from suffering. The problem very often is not the mind of wanting, it's what do I want? No? That's why in the Vajrayana path, it's called the path of transformation, using transforming desire into the path to enlightenment, transforming aversion, anger into the path to enlightenment, for example. Basically, what's the nature of desire? I project my happiness in something and I want that so much. Okay? The problem is that we project our desire into wrong things. So in the Vajrayana, instead of saying, give up your desire, that's very bad for you, that's harming you, and so on, which is true. In the Vajrayana say, do you have desire? Oh, let's cultivate it even more. Make it stronger and stronger and stronger. This lust of desire, this strong wish for something that comes through the whole body and the mind that overwhelms you. But direct it to something else. Direct it to the state of enlightenment. Develop lust and desire for what? For a mind of peace and joy. For satisfaction, for wisdom, for enlightenment. So the same energy of attraction is used, but to direct oneself to enlightenment. Okay? And it's very much connected with satisfaction. Satisfaction is the ability of us to discern what we need and what we want, and not follow what we want, but what we need. Okay? Not giving space for the wants, but only for the real needs, which are very few actually. Okay? And satisfaction is when we are happy with what we have and what we are. It's okay. So it's fine like this. So insatisfaction is when it's never enough. Lack of concentration is the mind that is never still. The mind that is not able to remain and rest in one object, in one place. Out of unlimited desire and attachment, the mind is always running around trying to get how I get what I want and how I defend myself from what harms me. It's always out of that. And this is happening out of attachment mostly, and desire. Okay? Then, on the heart chakra, we have anger. Anger is the mind that acts out of violence and aggression. It's the aggressive state of mind towards whatever the person recognized as an object, as a cause of suffering. So basically, I am in whatever situation, I experience suffering, and in the moment that I experience suffering, I believe that the cause of suffering is the object that I enter in contact with. So because you were speaking to me in that way and I suffered, I don't want you to speak to me anymore in that way. So I'm going to try to stop you in any way I can, and then I use aggression to stop you. That's when anger manifests. Okay? Normally anger manifests in two main ways, which is this aggression that manifests or because something we see as harmful to us and then we want to harm it. There is also the other mind which is quite worse, which is the mind of wanting to harm others. But anger also manifests when out of arrogance, when we see something or someone doing something and we do not agree with the way the things are, we don't think it's the right way, And because of that, we generate aversion towards it because we don't like seeing it like that. We are not comfortable with seeing like that, and so we generate aggression towards it. Like I remember one time one person, I saw this scene, was very aggressive towards two people because they were eating something in an unhealthy way. And this person had his own idea that what they were eating was not healthy. So he acted in an aggressive way. Where is this coming from? Arrogance. I know what's the right way. You don't know. I see you doing something stupid. How can you dare doing something like that? So I act with aggression towards you. Okay? So basically, anger is the mind that acts with aggression, physically, verbally, mentally, towards any object that it sees as a cause of suffering. That's when anger manifests. And very often it's connected with the attitude of pride and arrogance. Okay? I know many people that they are extremely kind people, loving people, that really I never saw them really wanting to harm anyone, but still have a lot of anger and are very aggressive. But this aggression is coming from their arrogance and not from the wish to harm others. Okay? It's important to make this distinction. The same way that the opposite of anger, that is patience. Patience is the ability to be in front of the object of anger and not react with aggression. That's patience. I am in front of something that I don't like, but I do not react in an aggressive way, physically, verbally, and mentally. That's to practice patience. Okay. When we talk about transforming anger into the path to enlightenment, it's the fact of taking the nature of the mind of anger itself, which is the mind of aggression and is the mind of aversion, of pulling things away, of pushing things away and saying, I don't need this, with aggression. And in the Vajrayana, normally it's something that we need to abandon because it's very harmful towards us. In the Vajrayana, it says the other way around. It says, do you have a lot of anger? You have a lot of aggression inside of you. Wonderful. Make it more. The only thing you need to be wise to go against what is really harming you. What are the real causes of your suffering? Your ignorance, your selfishness. So then you take all the aggressive mind and direct it against selfishness, against ignorance. In this way, you transform anger, the energy of anger, into the path to enlightenment. Okay? So in other words, when we talk about transforming, it means taking the energy of our own emotions and our own character, and instead of going against ourselves, using our own characteristics to go in the right direction. Okay? I don't know if it's clear, this. Okay? So, and then there is one point which is more difficult to understand, but I try to explain, which is transforming ignorance into the path to enlightenment. As we see, the main three defilements are the crown, throat, and the heart. Okay? Ignorance is the mind of not knowing, okay? Or the mind of wrong knowing. How we transform into the path to enlightenment? Basically, is the mind that somehow is, how to say, in darkness, not understanding something or understanding something wrong. Similar to anger, what we need to do is we need to change the object of it. Because how is the attitude of desire? It's going for something. The attitude of anger is rejecting and going against something. And the attitude of ignorance is total indifference. It's like remaining some sort of neutral to things. Because you don't know it, you don't care about it, you don't know it. So, if we imagine someone that has a lot of desire, we imagine this person moving more and acting to gain what he wants and so on. If we imagine a person with more anger, we imagine a person that is more closed and try to go against others and things like that. Is always in a defensive mode and so on. And when we imagine a person mainly of ignorance, it's this person that is not going for anything, is not against anything, but is a little bit like, okay? I don't know if it's clear, like living in the middle of a fog. Okay? What we need to do is we need to put the fog in the right place. Which means, it's a little bit tricky part, but it's like, instead of not knowing the way how things are, we need to not know the way how things are not. It's like, it's much more subtle and difficult than the other two. But it's like, what I know now, I see things as, no, in other words, what I don't know now, I don't know the lack of inherent existence. What I need to do is I need to keep the mind of not knowing, but not knowing what? Inherent existence. So change the object of not knowing, instead of changing the state, the attitude of mind. It's like one way, change, instead of not knowing that things are impermanent, start not knowing that things are permanent. Like change the object of the mind of ignorance, which is not exactly not knowing, it's a bit different, but that's why it's more subtle and more difficult. I have always had a lot of difficulty understanding how it's the ignorance is transformed into the path of enlightenment. But we need to take the attitude of ignorance, that is the mind of not knowing, and we need to put that on not knowing what? On being obstructed to what? To the object of ignorance itself, the grasping and inherent existence. It's like obstructing the mind to it. The mind of ignorance is a mind that is obstructed, that obstructs itself, that is blocked somehow. So we need to block the mind not from the actual reality, but from what is wrong. I don't know if it's somehow clear. Okay? It's more subtle, it's more difficult to understand. Desire is more easy. You go for just change the object of what you want. Anger is change the object of what you don't want. More simple. Ignorance is change the object of what you don't know. Want, don't know. You need to change the object. Is it more or less clear? It's not simple to understand this one. This is something which is quite hard to grasp a bit. Okay? But more or less, we can have some idea of the meaning at least. We can start to direct our mind to it. I have got quite some difficulty to put it into words, really, clearly. Okay? You grasp as something as being permanent. Okay? You look at the flowers and you truly believe the flowers are permanent. Okay? So your mind of ignorance is the ignorance that grasps at the flower as being permanent. And because of that, you are not able to see the impermanence of the flowers. Okay? So what's the object of not knowing? The impermanence. So you remain with the attitude of not knowing, but instead of not knowing the impermanence, you should not know the permanence. In the moment that you are not seeing the permanence, naturally you give space to realize the impermanence. Okay? It's like somehow instead of trying to give a new view, first block the old view and then you give space for the new one. Okay? It's like accept that your view is ignorant. Know that you are ignorant and be ignorant on your ignorance somehow. Like, yes, I am ignorant, so this what I see wrong, I don't need to see it anymore like that. Let me forget about it. I don't need to know it. It's somehow in that way. Okay? It is difficult. It is very subtle. Okay? And I have never found any place where it's really describing and explaining well. What I'm saying is just based on my own understanding, so it could be completely wrong also. Okay? I never found any description anywhere where he's explaining how to transform ignorance into the path. One time Rinpoche gave an explanation. And I remember that when Rinpoche gave the explanation, it was so clear in my mind. I said, wow, Rinpoche, thank you so much. Finally, I got what I never got for such a long time. Then finished the teachings. After half an hour, I could not get it anymore. It's like one piece in the middle was missing, no? And I was like, ugh. Then I went to talk to Rinpoche, and I said, Rinpoche, you told this, it was so nice, but not the piece is missing. And he didn't say anything anymore also, so it remained there. That's why we need to listen to teachings many times. Because the more we listen, slowly, slowly the pieces join together. And then we are able to reflect more and more about it. Okay? It's not like learning, I don't know, history or some simple stuff that you can understand and that's it. It takes time for the mind to put pieces together and understand some things. Okay? So, continuing with the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, we have ignorance at the crown, attachment and desire at the throat, hatred. Together with anger and hatred, it comes impatience. Because the impatience is the inability to be in front of an object that we see as a cause of suffering. It has not yet become anger, because it has not yet manifested an attitude of aggression. But it's building up. So, we are in front of a situation. We see that situation, that person, that object as a cause of suffering. We don't like being there. And we want as soon as possible to get out of that situation. So the longer it takes, the more we start gradually to build up a very uncomfortable feeling. And then we want to get out, and we want to get out, and we want to get out, and then it can explode in anger and aggression. Okay? That's impatience. Okay? Patience is based on accepting the situation, even though we may not like it, and not reacting with aggression and aversion towards it. Okay? Then we have insight. Inner agitation is also connected to the heart chakra. The agitation, the opposite of calm, basically, it's not the mind that does things slowly. But agitation is the aspect of the mind that before finishing one thought is already starting another. And is not able to do things correctly. It's like when we put too many things together and we have not yet finished to perceive one thing and understand one thing, we are already thinking about the next, and here and there we put everything together and we are not able to give the right space for every one of them, and then we get agitated. This will bring anxiety and so on. Okay? So based on that, calm, which is the other way, calm doesn't mean to do things slowly, but means while I'm thinking about something, I'm thinking about that, and I go from beginning to end. Then I go to the next one, then I go to the next one. But while I am doing it, I am present in what I'm doing. We can be very fast, and we can do many things, but we need to do them with calm. When we start to agitate ourselves, we put too many things together, and then we get overwhelmed by that, and then we get anxiety because we think we are not able to do everything, we are not able to realize what we need to realize, and then anxiety is coming. One of the main aspects of akshobhya is the instability. And the positive aspect is inner stability. The name itself, mi-kyopa, kyo means unstable, to shake. Kyo is to shake. Mi is no. Mi-kyopa, unshakable. Stable. So it's the mind that is not shaken by external conditions. Means the mind of patience is not letting the external conditions change our own state of mind. Okay? I think it's quite clear, no? Okay? So, based on that, there is another aspect connected to the heart chakra also, which is sadness. And also connected with, on the other side, there is spontaneous joy. No? Sadness is a very complex emotion also, and feeling. It is connected with insatisfaction. It is connected with many aspects, actually. But most of all, let me try to describe it. Sadness is connected very much, I believe, to the sense of not accepting things as they are. It's very much connected. That's why it's connected. Actually, sadness, it manifests at our heart, but it's connected to many other chakras also. So sadness is connected also to the fact of being of attachment to reality in the way how we want it to be. And when things are not the way how we want it to be, then we do not accept it, and we feel like we are a victim or something is against. How would the world can be like this? And then this manifests this deep expression of a feeling of unpleasure, of suffering. There is sadness. But most of the times when we see sadness, it is connected with the inability to accept what happened. Like, how can this be like this? How can that person act like that? Why this happened? And then it's just like staying in this feeling of not accepting what has happened. You see this all the time. Very often, like when I see when people die, the people around, very often the sadness is very much connected to the fact that they never ever accepted truly the fact that the other person was impermanent and the cause and conditions came and the person died. It's connected to that all the time. Okay? So, and then the mind of joy on the other side is connected with acceptance, connecting with the good part of things and seeing the good aspect of things. And if we just take the advantage of this moment to talk about this, I believe the greatest of all our attachments, and this we go back to the throat chakra, the greatest of all our attachments normally is said to be the attachment to our pleasures and so on. I don't think of that. Personally, I believe that the stronger of all the attachments is the attachment for reality the way how we want it to be. This is what I believe. At least for people in this part of the world that materially have everything we need and so on. Maybe if we go to a place where people have no food, no place to sleep and so on, then the attachments become a little bit more gross. Okay? But we that materially we have everything we need, more than what we need, I see around, the greatest attachment is for reality in the way how we want it to be. So when things are not the way how we want it to be, we suffer. The attachments that we may have towards our guru, towards the teachings, towards the dharma, towards good conditions for the practice and so on, is, as I was saying before, it's not unlimited attachment, because we have attachment towards something that is positive, like towards the practice of the dharma. Then we can have a mixture of positive and negative attachment also. Because, for example, if I have attachment towards my guru, I think I have a lot of attachment towards my guru. Okay? But if I have attachment towards my guru in the sense that I recognize that being on his presence and having him as my guidance, it really helps me on the path to enlightenment, so I don't want to give it up. It's something very important for me, so it doesn't matter what happened, I'm not going to give it up. This is positive. Okay? In the moment that, any moment that he's not looking at me, I start to suffer. He's not acting in the way how I want him to act, I start to suffer. When I'm far away, I miss and I start to suffer. This is a result of a negative attachment. Is it clear? And we can have the two, okay? And we can have, okay? We can have the two mixed together. Because there is two things. One thing is the attachment to the Guru, and what's the meaning of Guru? It's the guide to enlightenment. It's our spiritual guide to enlightenment. So I know the importance of having a spiritual guide to enlightenment, someone that is guiding me, someone that is showing me the path, someone that I can fully trust on my path to enlightenment. And it's so important to be near to this person, to be able to receive the teachings, to have a pure connection, and this is wonderful. Another thing is that we get attached to the image, to the idealized image that we have of the other person that we call Guru. And then what happens? When the person that we call Guru does not act in the way how we want, or does not do what we think we should do, then we start suffering, and then we can have a mixture of some aversion and attachment. And then when we are not near enough, when we are not seen in the way how we want to be seen, and we don't receive the enough attention that we want to receive, then we suffer. This means we have the wrong type of attachment. And most of the times we have the two mixed together. Okay? So what we need to do is more and more to develop the positive type of attachment, which is the attachment to the path to enlightenment and to the guidance on the path to enlightenment. And the mundane attachment that we mix together, we need to put it aside. This means developing a better relation. Okay? For the Dharma is inside of us. So to be attached, to practice generosity and patience and effort and wisdom, and this is wonderful. Okay? But if we start having an attitude that if I am not near a place where people are talking about Dharma and so on, I start to feel sad because of that, and I start to have a sensation of, insatisfaction and anxiety when I am not near this, I have a wrong type of attachment. I think it's quite clear, no? The difference between the two. Okay. Now, next goes the next one. We go now to the navel chakra. The navel chakra, the main defilements that we have is arrogance and miserliness. Okay? Arrogance, the definition of arrogance is when we feel superior to others based on something positive that we have, something that we see as good. I am better than you because I have more money than you. I am better than you because I am more beautiful than you. I am better than you because I am more intelligent. I am better than you because I am more spiritual. I am better than you because I am more humble. Okay? It happens, huh? No? Or not? There is even the people that may think, I am better than you, I am superior to you because I am more ugly. You know, how can that be possible? I already saw that many times. The person looking to someone, so there is maybe some envy mixed together, and then look to someone that has like physically is seen by the person as being more beautiful, and look at that person and say, look at that person that believes that everything is just because of his or her beauty. And you know, me, I don't care about these things. The really important thing is just the inner beauty, so I am better. I take care of my inner beauty, not this external beauty, and so on. It's arrogance. Okay? So, arrogance is one of the most subtle forms of defilement also. There is one time I was listening to one talk by Roberto Benigni, which is this Italian actor, and he was explaining the Divine Comedy. And there was one more point in which he said, humility is the most difficult of all qualities because it's enough just to think you are humble not to be anymore. In the moment you think, I am humble, you are not anymore. No? So it was actually to feel superior. And there is a very small, we need to be in between the two edges, which is understanding, being able to recognize one's own quality and not feeling superior in relation to others that don't have that quality, or that we don't see that quality. Not being arrogant doesn't mean that we need to see everything as the same. No. I can understand, I have one quality, you have another, but I am not placing myself as superior to you because of that quality. Okay? Like, I always remember one story in the life of St. Francis. And one day, by the end of the life of St. Francis, he was walking, he was not able to walk, he was very sick, and he was going to another town. And one peasant man, one farmer, was taking him on his donkey on the rules of the St. Francis for his monks and so on. At the time, for the Franciscans, at the time they were not allowed to use any animal for transport. They needed to walk, but only in case of sickness. So St. Francis was very sick. He had bone tuberculosis, so it was extremely painful and difficult to walk and so on. And he was almost blind, actually, also. And basically what happened is that he was going on this donkey, and then the farmer, very simple man, said to him, "Oh, so you are the famous Francis that everybody's talking about, aren't you?" And he said, "Yes." Then he said, "Be careful, huh? People have such a great expectation on you. Be careful that you are able to fulfill their expectation." He said this in a humble way, but very direct way. No? And St. Francis could say, "Thank you," or not say anything. Instead, he came down from the donkey with the body that was so painful as it was, and not like just coming down from the donkey. He kneed himself in front of the farmer, and then he said to him, "Thank you very much for your deep and precious advice." So he was able to listen the true meaning that was being said, taking away the context of who was saying and to whom was being said. When we listen to things, normally what's the first thing that we look? Who is saying and to whom is being said? No? There is one verse from one master. His name was something Vajrayana. I forgot his whole name now, but it said something like that, the verse. Let me see if I remember it precisely. I have it in my phone somewhere, but it's like this. I will look at it to say the precise verse, okay? But it's saying that if something is said in the correct way, it doesn't matter who says it. If it is a child, even if it's a child, you should follow it. If something is said in the wrong way and in an incoherent way, it doesn't matter who said it. Even if it's a Buddha, you shouldn't follow it. Normally, when we listen to people, what's the first question we ask? Who said it? That's why also in the Tibetan tradition, old tradition, nowadays not like this anymore, but in the old tradition of books, the pejas, the long texts, the name of the author is only written in the end of the book. And you need to go through the last pages to find out the name of the author. At some point in the end, the author writes, "So in this and this condition, by this and that request, me, Lama Michel, wrote this book in this place, blah, 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 blah." Okay? Why the name of the author is never in the beginning of the book? Because you should never judge the content of the book by who has written it. You should just read it, and then you should judge the content by what was written and not by who have written it. Okay? In our attitude of arrogance, very often what we do, when someone talks to us, we don't listen truly to what was said. We first judge who has been saying it, and to whom he's saying this to me, how he dares say this to me, and we even don't listen well. So this is one of attitudes of arrogance. I think it's quite clear, right? And arrogance is a very, very dangerous defilement. You know? Within, like in the spiritual path, is one of the most dangerous ones. I remember one time, which for me was very clear. Okay, I looked for the text as I explained that. Okay, when I was one time in Nepal, and then what happened was that I was in the pizza place, and as I was in the pizza place, there were, I'm getting there. There was some businessmen on the next table. Okay, man, it's in the middle of a picture that I have this. So what a second. So these businessmen, they were on the other table. I was looking to them, and they were like very dressed as like very serious businessmen, and with yeah, I found it. So there were these businessmen sitting there dressed like with a tie and so on, which is not very common to see in Nepal. One was like Westerner, the other one looked like Japanese. And they were there talking. I was, I think, 15 or something like that. I was looking to them, and then somewhere in my mind came the thought, poor guys. You know? Look at them, so arrogant in the middle of thinking this business mind, only thinking about material things. It was a sort of a thought of arrogance. And saying, oh, look at that. And while I was in this thought, which was not so much conceptual, and I was looking to them with some sort of arrogance, at that point, there came a bee flying in the restaurant. And then the bee went around them. First, the bee came near to me, and I was like afraid of the bee and moving and doing like this. Then the bee went to these two guys, and they were perfectly not moving. They were talking. The bee was going around them everywhere, and they had no reaction whatsoever from the bee. No? And this was a trigger that made me to look and say, how can I judge the qualities of these people? By the way how they are dressed? By the work that they do? How can I truly judge what they are? How can I feel superior to them? Who am I for that? So it was a very nice moment because it helped me to cut that moment, and to avoid it in the future. Because we have the tendency always to judge others by the way they dress, by the way how they live, by the work that they do. But truly, we never know who we have in front of us. So arrogance is a very subtle mind where we feel superior towards others. No? There is a story which I like very much also, which is a story of one of my teachers, Genlakpala, when he was a young boy in the monastery of Stira. There was a monk which was well known as the monk that went wrong. Basically, he didn't know how to read or write. He didn't know the prayers. He was just like working in the monastery. And when the kids were small, their teachers were saying to them, study well, otherwise you become like him. Okay? And he was just like fooling around in the monastery, making jokes and gossiping and just like this, no? And but because he was an elder monk, he had one younger monk that he was responsible for. Some sort of, not really disciple because he was not teaching him much, but like responsible for him. So one day this old monk that didn't know much, supposedly, went to his disciple, to the monk that he was responsible for, and said, oh look, for the next 3 days, don't come to see me, don't bring me water, don't bring me food, don't bring me firewood, because I'm going to prepare, I'm going to die. And then the young monk, he just thought, okay, better for me that I don't need to go there for 3 days. He's just like making a joke to me, whatever. I take it as serious, I don't go there. So he came back after 3 days, and then he found this old monk. With everything needed for his cremation was ready. The ropes to tie the body, everything was ready there in front of him. He was seated in the posture of meditation, dead. This is the most, not the most, but one of the most difficult things to do is to recognize one's own moment of death and flow through it through meditation. It requires high levels of realization. Like even the very well-known great masters, very, very few of them are able to do this. And there he was. So my teacher used to say, I saw with my own eyes this man. So never judge who you have in front of you. You never truly know who is there. We never truly know. So this is an antidote for our arrogance. Because we may feel superior because of spiritual aspects, which is the worst. Like, I remember my feeling, at least, when I went in 1999, I went to one interreligious meeting in Israel. It was called Jubilenium. And where I had a private meeting with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and there were many, many heads of religion, like important people from many different religions. And I had such a bad feeling the whole time. I felt so bad, actually. Because when I looked around, like, these important, very high important priests from all different traditions walking through each other, you know, they were not taking their heads off, like their religious heads, and each one walking with their own entourage. And for me, it looked much more like a display of arrogance than other thing. I'm sorry for my own way of seeing. But when I was there, I really did not feel comfortable. I really did not have the sensation of people looking to each other's eye and accepting each other's and having the humbleness to be together. Instead was each one attached to one's own worldview, and my view is the best and yours is wrong because it's different than mine. And for me, since that moment, I came to understand that the worst form of arrogance is the spiritual arrogance. And this is something that we need to fully avoid. We have arrogance, I am Gelupa, you are Nyingmapa, I am better than you. Based on what? Based on the fact that you are different from me, that's all. And like this we can go on and on and on. So many different ways. Sure, the way that I choose, I stick to it strongly and follow it precisely. But it's not because of that I can judge others simply because they are different on some way, and I think that they are wrong, or they are worse, or they are less because they are different. So, really arrogance is a defilement that we need to be very careful. Okay? And one of the qualities of humbleness is not comparing ourselves with others. One of the main important aspects of being humble is not putting ourselves in a position where we are comparing ourselves with the other one. Okay. Miserliness is the fear to give, because we fear not having enough for ourselves, or we fear suffering out of giving. So because we don't want to suffer, we want to have that because we want to be well and joyful, whatever, have a pleasant feeling, so we don't want to share, we don't want to give. So we become miserly. And out of miserliness, we suffer more, actually. Yeah? So, generosity is on the other side, the mind of giving, the mind of sharing. Okay. Now, let's go to the next one. Otherwise, it can become, generosity can go into, we have opened this door, it can be very long. Secret chakra. The main defilement is fear, jealousy, and envy. Okay? Originally, in the Tibetan text, it's talking about envy. It's not talking about jealousy. Okay? But it goes together somehow. So, fear basically is the mind of that doubts suffering and wants to avoid it. If we take any fear that we have, if we go on the root of it, it's the fear to suffer. And it's connected to the doubt. If this happens, I may suffer, so I want to avoid it. Normally, fear is connected to suffering. One thing is to have the certainty that something is not good for me, so I want to avoid it. That's something else. Huh? It's like, I know that fire burns, I'm not putting my hand into fire. I am avoiding it. Another thing is from now to be worried if I get near to that flames, my hands will be so painful, and then I will get so much And then every time you pass by, you already start to have anxiety and fear that that may happen. Okay? Normally, fear is connected to a previous experience of suffering and with the wish that we want to avoid that suffering to happen again. So when we see anything that is connected somehow to what happened before, we have the doubt that it may happen again, and we want to avoid it. And that's when we react with fear. Okay? That's why also I believe fear is a very deep emotion. And it's not conceptual because it's based on experience. So the way to overcome fear is inducing ourselves into positive experiences in relation to the same object and the same situation. Because then we have another reference. Okay? Fear is connected to doubt, uncertainty. Okay? On the other side, we have in the sacral chakra jealousy and envy, Tratok in Tibetan. Tratok is basically envy. Envy is the mind of aversion towards someone because this someone possesses something that we would like to have but we don't have. It's quite crazy, eh? But you have money and I would like to have and I don't have, so I have aversion towards you. You receive attention from that person that I would like to receive attention and I don't receive, so I have aversion towards you. Envy. Simple as that. And the mind of envy is quite stupid, as all mental defilements, but still. It's like, instead of not only suffering because I don't have, I even suffer more because I generate aversion. You know? And envy is a very tricky feeling because very often we can have envy towards someone that we like. And then there is a situation that we are not able to relate nicely and we create conflict because actually we like the person but we have aversion towards the person, not because the person did anything wrong or harmed us in any way, simply the person has something that we would like to have. Or we believe the person has something that we would like to have and we don't have. So we end up with aversion. Envy can bring people to do the most crazy and terrible things. Okay? So we need to be careful from the very small level. And, normally people say that it's very difficult when other people are envy of us. No? Normally when someone complains to me that someone is envy of him or her, normally what I say is that, so this means that you have something. No? So rejoice about what you have. No? So, it depends on the perspective that we have on things. But basically, what happens here is that the mind of is not energetically, it's not nice when a person has any negative emotion towards us. Envy, jealousy, aversion, grasping attachment, anything is not pleasurable actually. Okay? So envy is this mind that we see something in another one and then we have aversion. Okay? It's similar to more or less, there is a Tibetan saying, which I think in Holland we have something similar. It says, the garden of the neighbor is always more green, and one's own son is always the better. Okay? So we're always looking to the other, seeing whatever he has good, and oh, he's better than me, why? And this is a mind of envy. Okay? The mind of envy is a direct result of one attitude that comes from selfishness. Okay? Selfishness brings us always to compare ourselves with others. Because we see everyone through the filter of the I and the my. Okay? So basically what happens is the attitude of selfishness brings us to. When someone has something more than what we have, how do we react? We feel envy. Once someone is in the same level as we are, what we do? We compete. We want to get more. We want to be better. So we put ourselves in competition. And when someone has less than what we have, how do we act? Arrogance. It's quite tiring, actually, yeah? No? So the more we develop a mind of love, the more we love someone, the less envy and competitiveness and arrogance we will have towards that person. The more we open our heart and develop bodhicitta and love, the more altruistic we are, the less we will relate to people with these three attitudes. But the common way of relating, based on selfishness, is these three. Envy towards those that have more, competitiveness towards those that are in the same level, wanting to be better than them, instead of rejoicing what they have, and arrogance towards those that have less. There is one proverb in Tibetan which says, I forgot the word now in Tibetan, but it basically means between the meditators that do the practice of chut, no? When doing the practice of chut, there is the drum, and then there is also one. It's like a horn made of bone, right? So there is the sound of this horn, something like this, no? So basically, what the proverb says, something like this, which means like between these practitioners, they try to see which have the stronger sound of the horn, which basically is like if there was a period like if they are meditating one in one place, one in another one, and they listen someone else is also playing the horn, they want to play even harder to show they are better somehow, no? This is a proverb to say, when you see someone that is doing something good, instead of rejoicing, you want to show that you are better. This is the mind, selfish mind. This doesn't mean that those that practice chut are selfish. That's not the point. It's just a metaphor for that. No? So it's important for us just to rejoice for others instead of having envy. If something is good and we don't have and someone else has, may this person enjoy it. Especially if we like that person. No? And when we rejoice, we open ourselves. We are more relaxed and we open ourselves for the possibilities to gain whatever we want also. So, because the mind of envy creates blockages. Okay? Even if it is small. Then jealousy, it's different. Jealous is the mind of aversion towards that we see as an obstacle or an interference towards possessing what we believe that we possess. I repeat again. Jealousy is the mind of aversion towards the object that we see as a threat for possessing what we believe to have, to possess. So I have the glass, it's my glass, and suddenly I see the cup coming nearby and talking to the glass. Okay? And I see that the glass is talking to the cup, maybe. So the glass is acting in a way that I see danger that it can not be anymore my glass. So I have fear to lose what I believe is mine. So what happened? I create aversion. It can be towards what I see as mine, or it can be towards the external objects that I see as a threat. Okay? Basically, envy is aversion related to what we don't have, and jealousy is related to what we believe to have. But jealousy is also a very stupid mind, because out of jealousy, what happens? When someone is jealous of us, Do we like it or we don't like it? I think we don't like it. It's not pleasurable at all. So if someone is jealous of us, what happens? It creates more connection or it creates more distance. But if I am jealous of you, it's because I want to have you near to me. But by being jealous, what I create? Distance. That's why it's so ignorant. Okay? It's also connected to secret chakra. So jealousy is connected with fear of losing what we believe to have. Envy is aversion towards what we don't have and we want to have. Okay? And both of this, and especially jealousy, is connected with the fear. So secret chakra mostly coming from the fear. Okay? And the opposite is to rejoice. To be happy for the happiness and the virtuous actions of others. One of the greatest qualities that we can develop is actually rejoicing. Okay? Not easy. But it's something that we can truly develop. And it's connected also to the secret chakra. I will just now read that phrase that I was looking for. And it says, Den chintena chibe ngakyang nyen miden tendang galna galwe kaya sho from Lochen Vajrayana. So it says, Den chin, if truth, tena, and coherent, if it's truthful and coherent, chibe ngakyang nyo, listen to it even though they are words of a child. Okay? Even though normally child say much more right things than adults very often. Okay? But what is being said here is that if truth and coherence, listen to it even though it are the words of a child. Miden, töndangalna, if it's non-truth and incoherent, töndangalna, tön means meaning, gal means opposite. Okay? Opposite to the meaning, incoherent. So if it's untruth, untruthful and incoherent, galwe kayang sho, even though it may be the words of Buddha, let it be. It was written by a great master called Lochen Vajrayana. Okay? So, basically, what happened is that when we talk about arrogance, don't look much who said, but what was said. Okay? This is another point also. And this helps also when talking about arrogance. There is this saying that says, in the high mountains of arrogance, there is no, the water of the teachings and knowledge do not remain, and the flowers of realization cannot grow. While in the plain land of humbleness, the water of the teachings remain, and the flower of that realization grow. When we are arrogant, we don't listen to others, especially if we don't like what was said. Like, you can see a person that is very arrogant, it doesn't matter who is saying what. This person will not listen unless it's what the person wants to listen. And what happens to this? It blocks us from learning and from receiving. Okay? And understanding. So, all of this is deeply connected to the 5 chakras, to the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Okay? And the more we go deep, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk more about the defilements is because by understanding better our defilements and our qualities, we can have also a better understanding about the 5 Dhyani Buddhas and what they mean when we develop and so on. Okay? All right. Now, before we conclude this session, I would like just to explain one thing, which is just to go back to the part where we were coming from. Otherwise, we stop a little bit far away from where we were. When generating the 6 syllables, they represent all these qualities, the potential to develop all of this related to each Dhyani Buddha. The 6 syllables, after the light and nectar reabsorb back into them, they transform it into the symbols. White Dharma wheel, red lotus, blue Vajra, yellow jewel, and green double Vajra, or sword. Okay? As they transform into the symbols, it represents our qualities being developed. After that, once again, from the symbols, and another thing important, the symbols, they glow with the light, white, red, blue, yellow, and green, and they vibrate with the same sound. Om, Ah, Hum, Tram, Ri. They always have the sound. Okay? Then, once again, from the 5 symbols, light emanates in the 10 directions to realize the 2 objectives, which is making offerings to all holy beings, helping all sentient beings, and reabsorbing back into the symbols itself. Okay? When it reabsorbs back into the symbols, then from that it develops still more through the power of the merits and the love and compassion and wisdom. And all the blessings, it develops until more to its maximum potentials as each one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. The 5 Dhyani Buddhas represent our qualities at their maximum potential and our defilements completely purified in relation to each one of the 5 chakras, as we just said. Okay? So, there is white Vajrayana with the mudra of teaching the Dharma, or the Dharma Chakra mudra. As Rinpoche used to say, the OK mudra, because when you have wisdom, everything is just fine. Okay? So it's the mudra of Vajrayana. Vajrayana have different mudras. There is this mudra, okay? Then there is this mudra also. And there is this mudra also. I think it's like this, or like this. I think it's like this. Okay? The most well-known. This mudra is not mudra of Vajrayana. No. This mudra that is in Borobudur, many people think is the mudra of Vajrayana, but actually this mudra, it has the same meaning as this mudra. It's the mudra of union. Okay? The ring finger, okay, it has what is called the channel of great bliss. Okay? So when the 2 channels meet from the right and left hand, it's representing union. Okay? So the mudra that we have in Borobudur on the statues that are on the higher levels, on the round levels, actually they have this mudra. And this mudra is representing union of male and female energy, method and wisdom. Okay? So in many books it's written like, oh, this is the mudra of Vajrayana. No. Mudra of Vajrayana is like this. Quite different. Okay? Yeah. I don't know, we could call it the mudra of union. I don't know really if there is any specific name for it. This is the explanation that Rinpoche gave about this mudra. Okay? But for sure it's not the mudra of Vajrayana of turning the Dharma wheel. Okay? There's a big difference between this and this. Right? Okay? So, but most common mudra is this mudra, which is mudra of turning the Dharma wheel, of teaching the Dharma, teaching, of sharing experience and knowledge and so on. Then on the throat chakra appears Buddha Amitabha, red in color, with the mudra of meditative concentration. Okay, which is called Nyamnyi Gichagya. Better it's called Chunkur Gichagya, Nyamnyi Gichagya, of equal abiding, we could say in Tibetan, which is like equal placement, the mudra of equal placement, which is the mudra of meditative concentration. Literally, it's called the mudra of equal placement, okay? Which represents concentration because it has the triangle. Triangle is a symbol of concentration. Then we have the mudra of Akshobhya, which is the mudra of stability, touching the earth. The earth represents the most stable thing. Okay? Normally, from everything, when we need stability, where do we look for? In the earth. Earth is the most stable thing. Okay? So, it represents stability. That's the mudra Akshobhya, touching the earth. Okay? Then we have the mudra of Ratnasambhava. This is we call Sanyangicagya in Tibetan. Then there is the mudra of Ratnasambhava, which is Chokchin Gicagya. Chok is excellent, Jin is generosity. The mudra of supreme generosity. And then there is the mudra of Amoghasiddhi, which is the mudra of no fear, Mijikpe Chagya. It can be with the hand on the leg or a little bit upwards also. It's like pushing outwards. Okay? One interesting thing when we look at the mudras, if you look, what is common in all the mudras? The left hand. Okay, if we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And some people may think that the mudra is made by the right hand, but both hands are part of the mudra. What the right hand symbolizes? Method. The left hand, wisdom. The position of the left hand is said to be always in the equal placement position, which is meditative concentration, and it represents the direct realization of emptiness, wisdom. While the other hand is showing action. Okay? So actually, only by the mudra, it's already showing the enlightened state of the Buddha, because it's showing its ability at the same time to act in the world, which means to interact, and to have the perfect realization of the true nature of reality, which is symbolized by the left hand. In other words, a Buddha is the one that is able to perceive directly relative truth and absolute truth at the same time. Okay? Which is the true nature of reality, and at the same time to relate with things and to interact with reality. So this is being shown by the mudras also. Okay? Is it clear? Okay? So the symbols, they can say so much more than what we can put into words most often. Okay? So when we do the mudra, when we put the left hand, we remember realization of emptiness. All phenomena lack inherent existence. So we are connected with the true nature of all phenomena. And then when we put the other hand, we connect ourselves with action, with appearance, with acting and interacting with everyone. Okay? So which means interdependence, relative reality, truth, relative reality. Okay? So it has a lot of meaning, all of this together. Okay? So with this, we conclude the part of the generation stage. And then we will enter the next part, which is the so-called completion stage. Okay? So I would say that we don't start explaining anything of completion stage right now. And we will just do self-healing in a short way again, and as we did yesterday also. And then after we'll do with more details this part that we have explained. And then tomorrow we will go through or this evening a little bit to the explanation of the completion stage. Okay? So remember when we play the bell, to follow with the mind the sound that expands, and then when it goes back inside again, following the same process of the sound going in, we bring our mind to our central channel. sempe trinle yarngoda, pegge drolor zampe te parce, palde lame shabla solvade. Omo a guru vajradara suma timoni shasa, uta vardanya shribat, varsa manya sarva siddhi hum. Om a guru buddha 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 siddhi hum. Eyam ram lam bam ho shude shude soha. Ho shude shude soha. Yam ho shude shude Ram ho shude shude soha. Lam ho shude shude soha. Bam ho shude shude soha. Eyam ram lam bam ho shude shude soha. Omo sobhava shuddha sarva dharma swabhava shuddha. Pamle pema jango, pamle pema serpo, pamle pema ngompo, pamle pema marpo, pamle pema karpo. Om ahung tramarti. Rile naso dorje changuri, tramle norbo serpo tram, honle dorje ngompo hong, ale pema marpo a, omle korlo karpo om korlo nanse dorje, a pema che dorje, hum dorje mikyo dorje, tram norbo rinchun dorje, rinatso dorje tuyun dorje, lama tuyun dorje ke, om a moga siddhi hum. Lama rinchun dorje ken, om a ratna sambhava hum. Lama mikyo dorje ken, om a akshobhya. Lama che dorje ken, om a amitabha hum. Lama nangse dorje ken, om a veiro chana hum. Anye kechege dorje chanto. In an instant I become Vajrayana. Om mani peme hum. Om mani peme hum. Om mani peme hum. Om mani peme hum. Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mahasukha 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 Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti Hum. Om Vishwa Shanti. Lama Kuncho Sumla Kyapsu Chi Rangni Lase Dochi Sumnecha Donga Chosun Nircho Tadadam Gecho Kundu Chishin Drotanchi Dorna Disu Namkara Gevetso Chinye Sapa Tei Nyurtoda Norbo Panzo Shambal Hartien Lame Lamge Rimpa Tarchisho. Michi vese matonwana Teime lami kyo dorche ku Sewa tone pa chomde chi merik yurdu to paresho jetson lame kutse rabdenchen namkar trinle chochur losan tempe dreme sasumgi drove munse tatu ne gyurchi nimo dele sendele nime kuyan delekshi ninsen taktu delepe koncho sumge jingelo koncho sumge ngodro koncho sumge trashi shon. So now, before we have dinner, let's try to remember once again when we eat that the right hand method, the left hand is wisdom. As we intake the food, we are very grateful to all those that made this food available for us. And then as we intake it, we purify the wind that grows, that makes the wind absorbs into the central channel, that makes the fire grow, that heats the earth, that boils the water. And through this, we generate the inner heat for the digestive system, that it divides the pure and the impure part of the food. And based on that, of the pure part of the food, we offer it to all holy beings, especially to Guru Buddha in our heart. And the remaining part of this, we offer to all the sentient beings in our body, all the microorganisms that exist in our body. And as we offer to all of them, by that, may our body be completely healthy and with sensation of well-being. May our speech be strong and clear. May our mind have clarity. May by this our body and mind be willing to follow whatever path we give to it. And in this way, may through this merit and this positive interdependence that we create with all these beings living in our body, may in the future we be able to guide them in the path of enlightenment. And by this merit, by the merit that we accumulate by making this offering, may we reach enlightenment as fast as possible for the benefit of all things. Oma hon tamba lame sangye rinpoche, kyopa lame tamcho rinpoche. Rinpa lame gindu rinpoche, kyamne kuncho sumla chopa. Locho sambo pagyu trashi pa, tuche tempe tine. Shela chopa, kanshi rinpa samge chinange, parche kunsele she chinlenam. Totse gyachi shukden ringa se, tensum kordan chela chopa. Kenam chöchin sowa tabe tu daosu kanto nebe sachoter nedan ubon tapso shivadan chödan tashi pelvar sedi. Bile? Buon appetito. Et makler?